Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick Murray. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Tugboat Logic. And I'm here to talk about a few life hacks that can make your life easier if you're in DevOps or head of engineering and you've been saddled with being the InfoSec guy. So let's get to it. And I'll try to have some time for questions at the end. So basically what we're going to go over today is what your current world kind of looks like today. The old kind of painful way of doing things, which we'll go into a little bit, and then how there's like a better way to do these things to actually save you time, save you money, and just kind of, I've been through this many times. I've actually been in these situations where I've had to get an InfoSec program rolling or getting an audit done, and it can be quite daunting for people. And so if you're technical, but you're not a security expert, it's okay, you can do it. But I'm going to show you a couple hacks, and then if you want to see more, you can come over to our booth. So this has been me. This is my fourth startup. A lot of times when you're a startup, you're a small company, you got to wear a lot of hats, right? So you have your day job, like I'm head of products, but then sales comes to you and they're like, hey, you know, I need you to help me win this deal, and I need to have my security program done, right? Or a variety of different tasks. And so you have to kind of, because you know where the bodies are buried, because you built the product, right? Or maybe you're doing DevOps for the product. You're pretty much the only subject matter expert who knows how things are secured and things like that. So they come to you, and you have to do it because otherwise you don't sell anything, which is bad, right? So these are some of the things that you might, run into in your daily job. Maybe not everybody has to do all of these, but this is very common. I've been doing this for 20 years, and all these things have hit my desk at one point or another, right? So the first piece is you build a great product, you're going in the sales process, and then all of a sudden, in the sales process, there's the dreaded, security due diligence phase, right? And they're going to give you a security questionnaire. They're going to ask you for all these things about your security program. So one of the first things they're going to ask you is, can I see your InfoSec policy, right? And you're like, what's that, right? And then you go on Google and you start searching for InfoSec policies, and you start ripping off templates off the internet. And you don't know if you actually do any of this stuff, and then you hand it to your customer, right? That's very common, right? But they're going to ask you for this as an assurance document. The next thing is they're going to give you the big, giant spreadsheet, right? Everybody's nodding their head, yeah? Of like 200 questions, sometimes 400 questions if you're dealing with certain banks. And they're going to ask you all these things about your InfoSec program, right? And again, sales guy doesn't know anything about this. Maybe even the SE doesn't know anything about this. So they're going to come to the product manager. They're going to come to the head of engineering, and they're going to ask you where the bodies are buried so they can answer the questions so they can sell the deal, right? And then your job's not done, right? Now, you actually are going to find out that you are not doing some of these things, right? And so you're going to have to implement these security controls. And because you're in charge of DevOps or engineering, that falls in your camp as well, a lot of these things, right? And then if you're doing DevSecOps, or you're actually doing the coding, there's a lot of controls that are around secure development processes, which definitely falls into your court, right? Like, are you doing code reviews and things like that, right? And then the last piece is kind of the culmination of all this stuff, which is inevitably you will want to win a customer that's going to ask you for some type of third-party security audit, right? Like SOC 2 or ISO 27001 or whatever. And that's when they're going to come in, a third party is going to ask for evidence that all these controls that you implemented are actually implemented. You can prove it, right? Which again is another task that falls on your plate. So then you're starting to think, okay, I kind of try to do it for a little bit on my own. Maybe I go on the internet and find some stuff, or I'm using Excel spreadsheets to answer security questionnaires, or, but eventually this is kind of the old way it was done. Like your dad used consultants for this stuff, right? And what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll help you do like an assessment of what you need. And unfortunately, these guys bill by the hours. So they have no vested interest in saving you time or money, right? They're going to try to make it sound more mysterious, more complicated, because it makes them more money, right? And then at the end of the rainbow, what makes matters worse is what's almost more maddening than paying for a high-priced consultant is the fact that the result you get is super complicated. And you end up getting frustrated on how long the process is going to take, and it's very mysterious. It's just, you feel like you're never done, right? And so when at Tugboat Logic, we're saying there's got to be like a better way to handle this problem, right? And you guys are all technology folks. You've got products for everything else in your DevOps life, right? So why don't you have a product for helping with these problems, right? InfoSec problems, because you're saddled with it. It's one of your hats. So just like TurboTax helped simplify the process of getting your taxes done without having to hire an accountant, right? You can do it yourself. It tells you, just a guidance platform. You can do this with InfoSec as well. And that's really what Tugboat Logic is about. You have TurboTax, but for InfoSec, okay? So I'm going to go through a few life hacks. There's a lot in doing this, but these will be helpful. But at a high level, this is what your journey looks like when you're saddled with some of these tasks, right? The first piece is you just got to define your InfoSec plan, right? You just got to have a plan. What's your goal? What certification you're trying to get? You know, what's your infrastructure look like? All that kind of stuff determines your scope of your InfoSec plan, right? And then the next step is going to be you're going to have to implement that plan. You actually have to do it, because eventually you're going to get audited, and they're going to want to make sure, both your customers and the third-party auditor are going to want to make sure that you've actually implemented the controls that you say you do, right? And then the last piece is you're going to have to prove it. And this is where evidence comes in, right? And all an audit is, or all like a security questionnaire response is actually a way of proving what your InfoSec program actually is to somebody, right? It's usually on the behalf of a customer to kind of make them feel comfortable to do business with you, because they might be sharing data with you, right? So here's the first life hack, right? So there's some easier ways to build an InfoSec program, right? So this is the Tugboat Logic platform. And what we've done is we've pre-built all of these frameworks, right, for you. So you don't have to do any work. You don't have to write any policies. You don't have to come up with what controls you need. We've already figured out, by mapping to the industry standards like SOC 2 or ISO 27001 or GDPR or CCPA, whatever framework you might need, and then you click on it, and it'll give you the library of policies that you need, which are just high-end aspirational statements of like what you're going after, but more importantly, the controls that underpin these policies. These are the tasks that you're actually going to implement, all right? And so you can have, on the Tugboat Logic platform, you can have your InfoSec plan created in about 5 minutes, if you wanted to, and have a nice document to share with your clients, which is nice because that helps in the sales process. Okay, the next step is now you got to implement this. So this is where Tugboat Logic is kind of like Jira or GitHub, right? Or like a workflow product that converts all of these controls into tasks that can be assigned, tracked, evidence can be gathered for it, etc. And you can manage this all from a central dashboard of your plan. This is your InfoSec plan here on the left, right? And you can see what percentage of the policies have been published and reviewed, and then how many of the controls have been implemented. And this makes it really easy for you to know where you're at, which is always a big problem with InfoSec programs. You just don't know when you're done. You feel like you're on the road to nowhere, right? So this makes it very clear. This is my scope. This is what I'm going to do. Okay? Additionally, we do have integrations with Jira. So if Jira is your tool of choice to manage your entire process, you can export any of these tasks into Jira, work it in your Kanban in Jira, and then it'll get updated. The status will get updated back on the back end into the Tugboat Logic system about when it's done. And that's just what it looks like when it gets sent over to Jira. The next piece is, one of the biggest things I hear from DevOps people is, it's a pain in the you-know-what to collect evidence for audits, right? Because a lot of these things have to be done very frequently. So with Tugboat Logic, you can actually do a lot of automated evidence collections. We have about 5 of them now. This is the one that's shown on the screen, is one that's super frequent. Like one of the big controls that you need for SOC 2 is that you must do code reviews. for every release that you push to production, and that the person that did the pull request can't be the same person that pushed it to production, and that a certain number of things need to be done, tasks, before it gets pushed, like a review checklist. And so what we've done is like an integration with GitHub, so that no matter how many times you release, you could release 10 times a day, it automatically gets collected and stored in the Tugboat Logic repository, evidence repository, that you can then share with your auditors. This is just an example. So these are files and reports that you can actually print out and share with people. And the more that gets automated, the less work you have to do, right? The next thing is now you're kind of pivoting more into the prove it side. Answered security questionnaires. So the old way I used to have to do these is everybody has their like Google Drive or their hard drive on their computer that has all the old RFPs you've answered. Everybody does that, right? And when you get a new one, you're looking through it, hoping and praying to the collective RFP gods that you're going to find, the question that you're being asked, so you don't have to write it again. Well, what our product does is we've automated all this using machine learning, right? And so what you can do is you can automatically ingest an Excel spreadsheet from your customer for the security questionnaire. It'll convert it into these nice cards, right? And then you can hit the auto answer button, and it will pull the answer from one of 3 databases within the system. Let's say you've never done a security questionnaire in your life, and you haven't bootstrapped it, right? We will automatically go look at the Tugboat Logic library of content, policies and the controls, and give you an answer. It says, this is a good answer for this questionnaire. And then it keeps track of that so that you can go back and do that control if you haven't done it yet. And then as you do more of these RFPs, you can ingest them into our system. You can actually scour through a database of previously answered questionnaires as well. So if there's a way you really like the way you worded it in the past, then it will show up. And then the best part about this is this thing on the right, which is a lot of people are guilty of this, right? Myself included, is if you don't know if you do something, sometimes you just make something up and you send it back to your client, right? Which isn't great. But this system actually keeps track of all this. So any control or policy that you use as an answer for a security questionnaire, the system keeps track of this because it's all connected in the system, right? And it'll actually tell you, this is just an example of one control that you used as an answer 4 times, that these 4 customers you promised this thing to. So you better go do that, right? And you can always go easily find these pretty easily. And then the most common thing that's probably the most painful task that gets thrown on your desk is like a security audit. Like you have to get SOC 2 certified or ISO certified. And we've also built a module for this. And this one's really helpful because when an auditor comes in, they're going to give you a giant spreadsheet as well of things called evidence tasks. And you usually go through Excel and go back and forth, and it's vague and you don't understand what's going on, right? What you can do with our platform is you can actually upload that into our platform, and it'll convert all those evidence tasks into cards that are basically tasks, like a Jira task or a GitHub task, right? And then you can assign it to people. You can make sure you can attach evidence directly to it. And what's even better is that you can actually invite the auditor into the platform so that you can collaborate with them. Because one of the common things I hear from clients is that they get these really vague evidence requests from the auditor, like, show me you have AV enabled. And you're like, where? On my desktops? On my production servers? Where, right? And so we actually built in a commenting and collaboration tool at the bottom of this same module that allows you to communicate with your auditor and say, I don't understand this. Can you clarify, right? And vice versa. If you give them evidence and it doesn't meet their standards, they can request more information, and you'll get an email, and it'll also show up here. They can also say in the comments what they need from you. Like, hey, I need May. I need May's example, not June or whatever. And what's really nice about this is, let's say you do multiple audits. A lot of people will go through a maturity curve as a client, right? You'll start off doing SOC 2, and then later you'll do ISO. Well, they overlap a lot, these certs, okay? Like over 90%. So why would you do it all over again? You work with a consultant, you're doing everything from scratch all over again. It's total madness, right? So what we do is we kept all this evidence. So if you get another audit, let's say you have to renew your SOC 2 the next year, or you get a customer who wants to audit you, all that evidence is already in the repository, so you can use it again. So if you've done your SOC 2, you're probably going to be able to pass other people's audits as well. Okay? So a few other life hacks just to kind of get you through your audit. These are things that I get questions for from clients all the time. First piece is, control number one in my book is do data classification. What your clients care about is, what kind of data are they sharing with you or you have access to, right? And are you going to be a good custodian of that data, right? So you need to know where it is. What kind of data it is, you need to know where it's stored, and then you can make your life a lot easier in an audit by ring fencing that data in a very small area so that your audits go faster, right? So sometimes your infrastructure, the way you do your infrastructure can make your life a lot easier on your audit. So you should think about those things. Next one, once you find out your data, make sure it's encrypted, guys. It's got to be, if it's sensitive data, PII, personal data, PHI, any of that stuff, make sure it's encrypted. Make sure you cover all the databases. This is the most common thing I see. You see it in breaches all the time in the news. People just forgetting that they left it in this one database and it's all in clear text and it gets hacked. You don't want to be that person. Okay, it's not that hard to encrypt data. Just do it, right? And then also, not every control takes the same amount of time. So if you're on a tight time frame, like most of my clients are, they have like some deal that they're trying to win, right? Know that which controls you should do first. Pen tests take time. It's a requirement for SOC 2, for example. So make sure you queue that up early, right? So that you're done, so it's not the thing that holds up your SOC 2 certification. Okay? So just to kind of wrap up, what we're trying to do with Tugboat Logic is we're trying to give you a tool to not only save you time and money, but also kind of have something physical that you can show your management team that represents your InfoSec program. So you can say, before there was nothing, and now there's this very robust, very clear, easy to understand, physical manifestation of your InfoSec program that you can share with clients, help win deals. And even though you might be in engineering, if you can help sales answer security questionnaires faster, if you can help them get an audit done faster, you're going to be a hero to them. Because even though this is security, remember a lot of what InfoSec compliance is about enabling the business and getting deals done, right, for sales. So with that I have a couple of minutes for questions. So I'm not sure if...
if anyone has any questions, if you'd like to raise your hand, I can happily bring you the microphone just so everybody can kind of hear the questions. Anyone? Questions? Here we go. We have one over here.
Yep. So what's really the difference between this and a GRC tool? Or is this really a GRC tool tailored for DevOps or DevSecOps?
Yeah, great question. So just repeat his question. It's is this a GRC tool? So it's my mission in life to never become a GRC tool because I think they're awful. And I don't mean to, I just think they're really hard to use. And they're actually much broader in scope than what we're trying to do. Think of Tugboat Logic as laser focused on that security due diligence sales stage, right? What are you going to encounter from your client that you need to answer for them? GRC tools they do InfoSec, but they also do other stuff like in your financial services, you have to do Sarbanes-Oxley. That has nothing to do with security, right? So for our content, it's very tailored to security, and our workflows are very, very pragmatic to be very easy to use, so you can get through that stage really fast. So we don't want to make things complicated. I think that's the main theme, and GRCs are like the definition of complicated. I don't know if you've used them. Yeah.
Wait, we have a follow-up?
Yeah, sorry, just one more. Can you import your own scope for audits? For instance, high trust.
Yes. So our product has guidance because a lot of our customers don't know what to do, right? So just like TurboTax, if you don't know what to do, we'll give you frameworks to work with. But we also support custom policies and custom control creation and custom framework creation. So for some reason, I do have somebody using the platform for SOC 1, which is a financial reporting thing. We don't create the content for that, but we allow them to import their own content into the platform and make that.
Anyone else? Questions? Going once, going twice?
Okay.
I think we're good.
All right. All right, thank you. If you want to learn more, we have a booth way over there.